this project, I'm going to be using the Loops and Threads yarn. It is a bulky weight 5, and I am going to be using the recommended hook size for this project as well. And also, just to let you guys know, each ball of yarn is about 109 yards. I did pick up about 7 of these to complete the project. I don't know if I'll need more or less, but I'm just letting you know ahead of time. So for the project, I'm just going to begin with a slip knot, and I'm going to do a base chain. This chain will fit along the back side of the sweater, so it just needs to be long enough to fit your the length or the width of your back. So I'm going to be doing mine until it measures about 65 to 70 centimeters. So I'll let you know how many chains that ends up being for me. So my base chain is 60 chains long, and it measures a little bit over 70 centimeters. So that's right about where I want to be for my base chain. So now to get started, we're going to be doing the granite or the moss stitch for basically this entire sweater. So I'm going to be placing my hook in the 3rd chain from where I'm at right now. So I'm going to skip the first 2 chains. So I'm working through this chain right now, skipping the very next chain, placing my hook in the chain after, and I'm going to place 1 single crochet through this chain. Then I'm going to chain 1, find the very next chain in the row. I'm going to be skipping over that, placing my hook through the very next chain with a single crochet. And then repeating that process. So chain 1, skip the very next chain, placing your hook in the chain after with 1 single crochet. Chain 1, skip the next chain, placing in the chain after with a single crochet. You're going to be repeating this pattern for the remainder of the row. So once you reach the end of the row, to begin on the next row, just chain 2, flip over your work, and now we are going to be placing our single crochets through the chain 1 spaces. So we're not going to be going through any of the tops of the chains. We're going to be going through the entire space. So I had just placed a single crochet through that very last chain. I'm going to be kind of like just skipping over. It's easier if you just place your finger through them. You could see the spaces a little bit easier. So I'm just going to go through that very first chain 1 space, placing a single crochet. Chain 1, jump over to that next chain 1 space, placing a single crochet. And again, chain 1. It's so noisy outside. And then just jump over to the next chain 1 space. So that's all you're going to be doing for this row and all of the remaining rows. So you're basically just going to be placing 1 single crochet in all of the chain 1 spaces for the remainder of this entire back piece block that we are going to be making. I'm going to stop when this portion of the pattern measures about 70 to 75 centimeters. So I'm going to be doing quite a large chunk for the back piece. I want it to be long and drapey, so of course you could continue this for as long as you would like your sweater to be. So I just want to do a quick reminder, when you reach the very end, make sure you're not accidentally skipping that last chain. It's easier if you pull it apart. You'll see where you're supposed to place your last single crochet. So just make sure you're always placing the last single crochet of the row before you begin on the next row. And again, beginning on your next row, you always chain 2, flip over your work, and then find that first chain 1 space. So yeah, I'm just going to be continuing this until I get a large panel. So now I have finished the length of the back piece. So my size, it measures about 70 to 72, yeah, it's 72 centimeters. So this is just the length that I want my sweater to be. You could do shorter or longer, whatever you prefer, but this is where I'm gonna stop. So I still have my working yarn going and I have not fastened off. So now I'm going to count to the center of the sweater and I'm gonna put 2 chain markers in the 2 center chains. So now I have marked off the 2 center chains in the middle of the sweater. I'm going to continue my working yarn going along. I'm going to stop at that first chain. So I'm going to leave these 2 chains unworked. I'm going to stop the chain before that, continuing the same pattern, and I'm going to go back and forth a panel that measures exactly the same length as this panel. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead, do 1 row, and then when I go to turn my work, I'm going to decrease in the second row. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do that, but first I'm going to work this first row the same way that I have been. So now I have reached the chain before my chain marker. I'm going to leave this chain unworked, and I'm going to go ahead and stop on that single crochet and prepare for the next row. So I'm going to chain 2 like I would as if I was at the end of the row, flip over the work, and then I'm going to be decreasing in this first 2 chains of the side that has the chain markers. So this is how I'm going to decrease. So normally I would be placing my hook through this very first chain 1 space, which I am still going to do. I'm going to yarn over, pull through, then go through the very next chain 1 space directly. So I haven't completed the single crochet. I'm going to go through that very next chain, yarn over, pull through the first 2, pull through the last 2. So that is how I'm going to decrease in those first 2 chains. Then I'm just going to chain 1 as normal and go into the next chain 1 space with my single crochet. So that is how you're going to decrease. So you're going to place a decrease in the first 2 chains for the first 4 rows. So this counts as one of the 4 rows, and then the next 3 rows also we're going to be decreasing in the center area. So once you reach the chain markers, you're going to be decreasing for a total of 4 rows. At the end of the work, you are not going to be decreasing, just crocheting as usual. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to go ahead, do the next 4 rows with a decrease in the first 2 chains, exactly how I just showed you on this side of the work. And then after the 4 rows of decrease, you're just going to continue as normal until this front panel measures the same as the back panel. So that's basically all I'm going to be doing. If you want to skip ahead and just complete this side, go ahead. I will be back once I am finished and I will show you what I have. So I just want to show you, I have completed almost the entire second row. Just to be a little bit more thorough, I'm going to just make sure you know exactly how you're supposed to complete the row. So I have placed my last or second to last single crochet. I've chained 1, and now I'm going to place it through that very last stitch in the row. So you're not placing it through the space, you're just going to go right through that very last chain that's at the very corner. Place your single crochet, and then again you're going to be decreasing, so exactly how I just showed you. Chain 2, flip over your work, go through that very first chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through, go through the very next chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, then just chain 1 and go right back into your regular pattern. So just want to be more thorough, but yes, I'm just going to be doing 2 more rows of decrease on this side only, and then I'm just going to continue down and continue this side of the front panel until it measures the length of the back. So now I've finished with the length of the first front panel. So when I fold this over, it fits the length of the back panel. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut and tie up here, and then I'm going to reattach on this side of the work, and I'm just going to repeat that same process. So I'm gonna crochet as normal up to the chain before our chain marker, then I'm gonna do 4 rows of decrease and then continue until it's an identical length as the other one. So yeah, that's all I'm going to be doing. I'm just gonna finish the other side real fast. So now I finished with both front panels. I just need to cut and fasten this off, and then I'm finished. What I'm gonna be doing next is sewing up the sides and leaving space for the armhole. So to begin on that, I'm just going to reattach my yarn at the very bottom of the piece, going through both corner pieces. Just going to reattach my working yarn with a double knot. And a trick to getting rid of both of the original extra yarn pieces that are hanging off of your body piece, I'm just going to place my hook through that same two sides that I just attached my yarn through, and I'm going to pull all of these loose ends towards this way. So I'm going to be working this into my edging seam as well. So I'm just going to pull those over for now. This is my working yarn. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. And there's a few different stitches you can do to close off your, or to close two crochet pieces together. You can do a slip stitch or a single crochet. I like working in single crochets. It makes the work fold together easier. But so I'm just going to go through the top stitches of both sides. So this is the front panel, and I'm going to also go through the back panel. Yarn over with my working yarn, pull through. You'll have two on your hook, yarn over, pull through two. So I'm just going to continue doing that. That's basically all you do to close the sides together. So I did seam it up almost all of the way. I'm leaving about a 7-inch from the shoulder of the sweater down to the body portion. It's about 7 inches on one side. So I've seamed up about 21 inches. I'm gonna stop there, just cut this and fasten it off. I'm just gonna repeat that on the other side as well. Once you reach the end of the row, then you're just going to chain 2 to begin the next row, and we're going to be working in the back chains only. So I'm going to be placing double crochets in every chain, only in the back chains. So to get started on the sleeve, I am going to be making it separately and then attaching it to the body of the cardigan. So to begin, we're going to make a ribbing that goes around our wrist. I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to chain a total of 12. Once you have the 12, you're going to block off that last chain with your finger, chain an additional 1. Then I'm going to be placing my hook through that chain that we just blocked off. I'm going to be placing 1 single crochet. And then place 1 single crochet in every chain going back down along this first row. Once you make it to the end of the row, you're just going to chain 1, flip over your work, and then to create the ribbing, we're only going to be working in the back stitch only. So just in case you need a little bit more help finding the back stitch, if you flip it forward, then you can see when we place a normal stitch, we are placing through both sides of the chain, the front loop of the chain and the back loop of the chain. To work in the back stitches only, we are only going through the back one. So we're going to be placing single crochets along the back stitch only. And also when we are creating our rows, the chain 1 is the turning chain. So technically this chain that's connected to the chain 1 is the first chain of the row, but we are always going to be skipping that, placing it in the second chain. So only in the back loops and we're going to make sure that after the chain 1 we are skipping this first chain of the row, placing it into the chain after. This will always be the first chain of the row. So just go ahead and make your way back down this row, placing 1 single crochet in each of the back chains only. So that's all I'm going to be doing. So once you make your way all the way down the row, then always to begin the next row, chain 1, flip over your work, and then just continue working only in the back chains. So again, we're going to be skipping the chain that's connected to the chain 1, placing it in the chain after, in the back loop only. So I'm just going to be repeating this process. So we are creating the width of the band right now. So just make sure you have enough rows to comfortably wrap around your wrist. We'll let you know how many rows that ends up being for the size that I am making. So I'm finished with the ribbing for the sleeve. I ended up doing a total of 20 rows for my size. So it just fits loosely around my wrist, doesn't have to stretch that much, and that's what I want because you're gonna have to end up seaming this together anyway, so it's gonna get a little bit tighter. But now to move on to the remainder of the sleeve portion, I'm just going to continue off. I haven't fastened off. I'm just going to use the same working yarn, chain 1, and now I'm going to start working upwards like this. So I'm going to be doing rows against the side of the ribbing. So for the initial chain that we're going to make for the sleeve, you need to put a total of 37 chains into this ribbing. So you're going to have to squeeze it in, probably do 2 single crochets per chain. You're going to have to squeeze in a total of 37. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I've placed a total of 37 single crochets along the side of the ribbing. So now to continue the remainder of the sleeve, you're just going to be doing the pattern that we were originally doing for the body of the cardigan. And as you can see, I've already done one sleeve and attached it to one side. So basically you're going to want to do this for as long as you need it to be to fit your size. And just a reminder of the pattern once you reach the very last chain. Which is also why we had an odd number of single crochet chains along the ribbing, so it'll fit perfectly with the pattern. You're just going to chain 2, flip over your work, place your hook through that very first chain 1 space in the row with a single crochet, chain 1, skip over to the very next chain 1 space, and place your hook with a single crochet. So yeah, that's all I'm going to be doing. And I'll come back once I've finished with the length of my sleeve. So I'm going to end up doing about 37 rows. This fits my sleeve for my size perfectly. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna do. As just a reminder of the pattern, always chain 2 to begin your row, flip over your work, and then you're going to be skipping that first chain, placing your hook through the second chain with 1 single crochet. Chain 1, skip over the next chain, placing in the chain after with a single crochet. Chain 1, skipping a chain, placing your single crochet in the chain after. So basically that's all you're gonna do. Repeating that same pattern as the body. I'm going to do a total of 37 rows, and then yeah, I will be back to show you how to attach it to the body of the cardigan. So I also just want to give one more reminder or tip for this pattern. So I am on the second to last chain 1 space. I've already placed my single crochet. As you can see, there's 1 chain 1 space left. Instead of going through that chain 1 space, I'm just going to make sure I've chained 1, and I'm just going to go through that very end. So I'm just going to be placing my hook through the top of the chain 2 instead of going through the chain 1 space. This just makes the edge of the pattern look a little bit smoother, and it's easier to join the both sides together if both sides are flat, if that makes sense. So that's all I do, and then you just go ahead, chain 2, flip over your work, and then continue the pattern as usual. So that is just a little tip, how to work this pattern evenly on the sides. So yeah. So now I've finished with all the rows for my sleeve. I'm just going to show you guys how I'm attaching it together. So I'm just making sure that the body of the sweater is flipped inside out to attach the sleeve. So then all I'm going to be doing is just lining it up, placing the sleeve on the inside of the hole for the arm. I'm just going to attach it with my crochet hook. I'm going to place it through the top chain of the armhole and the top chain of one of the corners of the sleeve. I'm going to attach that together with my working yarn, and then just do basic single crochets around the armhole. So just make sure you're tying this together with a double knot. And of course, you could weave in the excess strings later. So yeah, I'm just going to go through that same hole, yarn over, pull through to bring up the yarn. Then I'm just going to be going through one side and the other side, yarning over through both, and then placing a single crochet. So I'm just gonna go work my way around, attaching the sleeve to the body. That's literally all you have to do. Just make sure you're sticking towards the top. Gonna kind of fold the sleeve underneath as I go. So now I've made my way almost all the way back to the bottom of the sleeve. I'm just gonna continue attaching that evenly. So yeah, I'm just going to join the last bit of the bottom together, and then I'm just going to continue the same working yarn, closing the length of the sleeve. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right over to the other side of the sleeve, connecting the two sleeves together. And then just continuing along the two sides, going down. That's basically it. This is how I'm attaching the sleeves to the body and the sleeves together. So once you're finished with the length, there's just one more thing I'm gonna do to finish off this cardigan. You're basically done. It doesn't take that long. The yarn is very bulky, so it works up pretty quickly, which was really nice. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish connecting the sleeve and I'll show you what's next. So now I've finished attaching both sleeves to the body of the cardigan. You could stop here if you wanted. I do want a little bit more of kind of like a drapey portion around the neck. So I will be attaching my yarn and creating a little bit more along the line of the neck. So there's two ways you could do this. If you just want more along the cardigan closure, then you could join your yarn at the very end and work your way around in rows, going around the neck and back down, ending here, starting your next row. If you do want to add a little bit of an edging along the bottom as well, then I would recommend to start at the middle of the neck and then work your way all the way down one row and then work your way around the bottom, coming back up, ending at the top. So I think I will do that. That will take a little bit more yarn. It's not really necessary to edge the bottom. With the pattern that we use, it's not really frayed, or it's pretty even, so that's optional if you want to just add more drapiness to the sides of the cardigan. I think I will add a little bit to the bottom as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and attach my yarn to the middle of the neck portion. Also, I do want to mention I did have a total of 12 balls of yarn for this. I only have 3 left, so I did use a total of 9 balls of yarn for this cardigan so far. That is a lot of yarn. So depending on how much yarn you want to buy, if you want to do the edging on the bottom or just the side, that's up to you. I do have 3 left, so I probably will just add some more along the side as well. So I know it's kind of difficult to see. It's hard to get this all on frame, but I did attach it to the center of the back of the neck, and I'm just going to do a basic row all the way around of just single crochets. So that's all I'm going to be doing, just placing single crochets basically anywhere where the hook fits. So I made my way down. Now I'm about to go into the bottom portion. So in order to make the turn, just on that very last chain, all I'm going to do differently is I'm going to be placing a couple chains in this one chain. So I'm just going to be placing a total of 3 single crochets through that very corner chain just to make the turn. And then I'm just going to go normally back into the bottom portion now, just placing 1 single crochet every chain or so, just making sure it's not bunching up or getting too tight. But yeah, I'm just going to make my way all the way around, and when I go back up the other corner, I'm going to do 3 chains in that corner chain as well. So just keep that in mind if you decide to make an edging along the bottom. So I did make my way all the way back around to the beginning. I am just going to be working in spirals. I'm not going to chain 1 and attach it as you probably should. I'm just going to do spirals because it's easier for me. Also, if you want to just continue with plain single crochets, feel free. I am going to go back into the pattern we've been using for the entire sweater. I'm probably going to do 2 rows. You could do as many rows as you want to kind of close up and make a little bit of a collar or just a little bit more of a like closing to the cardigan. So I'm probably going to do about 2 or 3 rows depending on how big I feel I want to do it. But yeah, you could even stop here if you want. It has kind of like a nice, just like a small edging along it, but completely up to you. I am going to be doing a few more rows of the original pattern, and then after you're finished with that, you are basically done. You could add pockets if you want. That's just make a basic square and then sew on the 3 sides. That's all you have to do. I'm probably just going to leave it like this once I'm finished with the edging. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in my next video.